Probably gonna have to change that intro pretty soon. Pretty sad to see Michael Porter Jr. on that, for those that are watching on the YouTube side of things. But welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network. And I am here, I am ready, I am excited to talk about a new iteration for the Denver Nuggets, who are, oh boy, this is going to be a big one. We're going to have a lot to talk about on this episode. I'm very excited to talk about it. There will also be some more time throughout this summer to lament the trade of Michael Porter Jr., because I do think that there is, and I said this on Locked On earlier, I do think that there is a massive amount of credit and appreciation that should go Michael Porter Jr.'s way for giving 7 years of his career to the Nuggets, for being just an absolute warrior. He, like, the lasting impression that I'll have of him with the Nuggets is playing through a separated shoulder, basically, or playing through what amounts to a torn labrum, like it just a horrible situation. He did it because he's a competitor. He did it because he's a warrior. And it sucks that it kind of had to get to this place, but this trade does make the Nuggets better. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to be positive on this one. I'm very excited about the prospects of the Denver Nuggets. I think that they have just unlocked a lot of possibilities. And I think that they have made it way more likely that they win a championship. Genuinely. Like, this was the right move. This is what they were supposed to do. And I think it's very important to talk about it through that lens. So let's talk about it. The Denver Nuggets, they trade Michael Porter Jr. and a 2032 first round pick unprotected to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson. Just a wild deal in and of itself. It has been discussed. That was a deal, that was a concept that was discussed. Jake Coyne, friend of the show, friend of the program, floated that in his manifesto, I believe, as an option for Denver to explore. I believe he paid for more in his mock offseason for the Denver Nuggets in that scheme of things. The Nuggets only having to give up a first-round pick. It is unprotected, but one first-round pick in order to go from Michael Porter Jr. to Cam Johnson, to me, that is wild. That is crazy, given what we know about Michael Porter Jr.'s injury history, given what we know about just how he has performed at times in the playoffs and his, I think, limitations. It's important for everybody to understand just how crazy this move is. Cam Johnson's a fantastic basketball player. And I described him over at Locked On as, I think, the prototypical small forward in the NBA right now. He's one of those guys that, like, everybody wishes that they had a Cam Johnson on their roster, a Trey Murphy on their roster, a DeAndre Hunter without the injury issues on their roster. Somebody of that size profile who's about 6'8", who can play up and down a position. He's a small forward, he's a power forward, he's a shooting guard in your lineups, whatever. You can switch 2 through 4. Probably not going to guard a lot of 5s, probably not going to guard a lot of 1s, but he is going to play, and he's a danger all over the floor. For his career, he shoots 45% from the field, 39% from 3, and 85% from the line. Last year, he shot 47.5% from the field, 39% from 3, 89% from the line. Averaged 18.8 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, less than Michael Porter, and 3.4 assists, more than Michael Porter. That's also, I think, a larger part of his game now. He's started to figure out how to set the table for other people a little bit more consistently. He's capable off the dribble. He's somebody that you can trust with the ball in his hands. Probably not like an isolation scorer. Probably not a big isolation scorer at that point. But it is just very interesting to see him, as says it here. Ryan, remember when during the deadline a lot of teams wanted Cam Johnson? Yeah, It's one of the reasons I didn't think that Denver would be able to get him on this kind of deal, because they were asking for 2 first-round picks. That was the going price for Cam Johnson. And Denver not only gave them 1, but they gave them worse money. Now, Brooklyn's in this position where it didn't necessarily matter to them about the money, because they have 5 first-round picks that they are signing to their roster this year. They have several guys like Day'Ron Sharpe, Zaire Williams, who they are bringing back on deals for cheap. They are not in a financial issue at this point. They can take on Michael Porter's contract and be fine. It was one of the benefits of talking to the Brooklyn Nets. They were the only team with cap space heading into the offseason. So the fact that Denver, of all of the teams that could trade for Cam Johnson, the fact that it was Denver that lucked into this deal and was able to use that to their advantage is absolutely tremendous work by the Nuggets front office. Tremendous. I don't know where this came from. I don't know who prompted it. I don't know if the Nuggets were the ones to reach out to Brooklyn. I don't know if Brooklyn was the one that had previously had conversations with the Nuggets and then decided to reach back out and say, hey, we would like to trade Cam Johnson. Are you interested in giving us a pick? If that was the case and Brooklyn actually reached out on this deal, like, this is an A+ for Denver. If you want to give a grade, this is an A+. And I'll tell you why. First and foremost, Cam Johnson is a better player. He's a better all-around player. He's a better defender. He's more consistent. He's one of those guys that I think you can trust night to night on a more consistent basis. As his role got bigger in Phoenix, he became a starter that they trusted. And then his role really took off in Brooklyn when they traded him for Kevin Durant. Not really a surprise. But now, in the prime of his career, he's only been in the NBA for 6 years. He was in the 2019-20 draft. He will be, like, currently he is age 29. He still has plenty of years, especially as a shooter, that are going to be very high quality. And the Nuggets are going to get him for his best years. I really do believe that. Like, he's going to be very good for the next few. And to get him in line with Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown, and then to continue to be able to add on to that going forward, that is a tremendous amount of business for the Nuggets. They deserve so much credit. Really, really interested to see where they go from here. But I do think that, Denver's in a very interesting position at this point. And they are in an interesting position because I think they took advantage of a team that wasn't making great decisions. Like, I've talked about this before. Utah, not making great decisions, I don't think. The Pelicans, not making great decisions. Other teams, Chicago, not making great decisions. You go to the teams that are not making great decisions and you try to trade with them. And Cam Johnson on this deal, I think, represents that extremely well. Now, he's a great player. He is somebody that I think the Nuggets will really like. He's somebody that Nuggets fans are going to really appreciate because he's going to do a little bit of everything. But more than that, he is going to space the floor even more than Michael Porter Jr. did. Brooklyn last year, he attempted 7.2 threes per game. I think in Denver, he's going to create even more than that potentially. He has a quick trigger. He is very consistent when it comes to getting that shot off, and I just trust him to be able to make those decisions. He's a very high-level processor and somebody that reads the floor extremely well, which is honestly something that Michael Porter really struggled with while he was in Denver. So very curious to see what Denver ultimately, like, how they continue to build out with this, but the starting lineup does not take a hit. Somebody asked me earlier, am I concerned about his rebounding? No, not really. And the big reason is Christian Brown's a pretty good rebounder for the 2-guard spot. Jamal Murray, when he really buys in, pretty good rebounder for the point guard spot. Aaron Gordon's probably an average rebounder for power forward. He was asked to do more, I think, from a perimeter defense perspective last year. But now Denver can have Cam Johnson guard some perimeter defenders. They don't have, and like, one of the things that Denver really had to struggle with Porter was that they were hiding him consistently. There was never, ever a situation where they would have Aaron Gordon taking a playoff if Michael Porter was out there. So Cam Johnson can guard at least a little bit. Like, he's not great, but he's not going to be terrible. So I do think that that's at least a big deal. Will Denver be worse rebounding? Maybe a little bit. But honestly, guys, OKC just won the championship. They are not a good rebounding team. I do not think their rebounding is that important. I think that if Denver works on their detail stuff on both ends of the floor, that's way more important than actually cleaning the glass. It's important, and Denver will need to have some guys that do that, but it's not the thing I'm most concerned about, because Porter, for the rebounds that he did grab, there was an argument as to whether they were super valuable or not. At least the optionality. Bean Machine asks, what about his availability? Seems he's only played 62 games or more one time. Yeah, he's had questions with his availability. What I will say with the Brooklyn years is that there were not a lot of reasons for him to be out there on the floor all the time. He's had some fluke injuries. He's had some things that aren't necessarily like, they don't make him injury prone, for example. With Porter, he had chronic back issues, things that were not reported. There were a lot of things that he had to play through and continue to play through and just make himself available as much as possible. I think that Cam Johnson will make himself available for Denver, but more than anything, like if as long as he's ready for the playoffs, that is the most important thing. Denver's now in a position where they have enough depth, or will possibly have enough depth, where they can rest guys at least a little bit more. So that's at least the goal. We will see whether that actually manifests or not, but I do think that it's something worth talking about. Overall, massive deal for Denver. Massive, massive deal. The fact that they were able to get this is crazy. The fact that this is actually manifesting is crazy. We will ultimately see where Denver goes from here, but I've got some things that I want to chat about. But before we get into those things and like the further comments, we got to talk about Bruce Brown. Like, Bruce Brown back in Denver. And I thought that he would be a taxpayer mid-level guy. I thought that that was what his value was about. Basically, like, I think Denver has a higher impression of him than a lot of places do. But I got to be honest, like, they got him for the vendor minimum. That's a great deal. In addition to Cam Johnson being a cheaper option than Michael Porter Jr., Bruce Brown now comes in for the minimum for Denver, which is about $2.3 million. It gives Denver some flexibility to continue to add to their roster, to continue to add to different spots where you can absolutely see Denver continuing to add to their bench. And whether that's through trade, whether that's through free agency, I'll go over those examples in a minute. But just how about Bruce Brown coming back and making himself a cult hero once again for the Nuggets? They helped earn him a 2-year, $45 million deal. He came back and ultimately is going to be there for it. Very, very excited to see what that looks like with him. Sorry. Damn. I cannot share what I just received. But no, Bruce is going to be great. Like, I said this on Locked On earlier too. He is going to, like, he's a cult hero in Denver already, but it's just cool to have somebody that wants to be here, that wants to be in Denver. As somebody who grew up in Colorado, I love it here. I went to school in South Carolina for 4 years and then came back because I didn't like it out there. I did not enjoy it out there. Not my cup of tea, not my type of place. Super hot, super muggy. But I love Denver. I love Colorado. I love being here. I love being around my family. And I can understand why it's not the most appealing to huge athletes, people that like live a different world than I do. But Bruce Brown's kind of just one of the boys, man. He grew up in Boston or around Boston. He absolutely just goes on golf trips with the folks, with the boys. And he loves, like, he's going to buy a ranch out here, I think. There's just so much to like about Bruce as like a Denver person. He has adopted Denver in so many ways that I didn't really expect. And you thought that he would just be on a 1-year mercenary deal and then go on his merry way and live his life. But he laid down roots here in a lot of ways. So just just really excited to see what it turns into. I don't know what his role is going to be. Right now, he's probably like, if everybody's at their peak, he's probably still the sixth best player on the Nuggets. So like he will be able to be the backup shooting guard for Christian Brown. He can be the backup point guard for Jamal Murray, and they could go point guardless lineups, which is a little bit easier if you've got Cam Johnson than Michael Porter Jr., mind you. He could play some backup small forward in place of Cam Johnson, or Cam Johnson moves to the 4 in place of Aaron Gordon, and they play Murray, Brown, Brown. That'll take some getting used to. Murray, Brown, Brown, Johnson, Jokic. And just like you have the space, you have the pace, you can play really fast with that group. But there's just so much more flexibility with the way that Bruce plays. So that would be awesome. That would be really cool. And I do think that, like, look, he will also probably add to a group off the bench that has Jalen Pickett, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, Deron Holmes, and who else the Nuggets ultimately end up adding. Like, I'm not sure what Zeke is going to be doing. I'm not sure what Hunter Tyson's going to be doing. Not sure what Dario Saric is going to be doing. I do not think that those guys are massive priorities, but I do think that they are at least interesting. We'll get into this in a little bit. Tony Jones saying to watch for Yabusele to the Nuggets a couple minutes ago. I will have to go check on that real quick. But just really like good vibes to have Bruce Brown back. Good vibes, good energy. Always excited to be able to reconnect with somebody like that. So he clearly enjoyed his time here. The Nuggets are going to love having him back. And I compared it previously to the Gary Payton II situation with Golden State. He got an opportunity there, won a championship with them back in 2022, signed a contract as a result of it in the next offseason. It didn't work out with the Portland Trailblazers. But what did happen was he was able to go back to Golden State, and he's been there ever since, and they've been pretty successful. So it will be very fascinating to see what ultimately happens with it. But it's going to be very interesting. Man, going to be very, very interesting. I said this on Locked On as well. I think the Nuggets opened up the door again for a championship. They are not there yet. There are still things that they have to do in order to close the gap with Oklahoma City. But OKC is like, they have their own things. They're basically retaining their roster. Can Denver build a roster that's better equipped to take down the Oklahoma City Thunder? They're on their way. Bruce Brown would help. He would absolutely be a good person to mix it up with Lou Dort, to mix it up with Alex Caruso. Absolutely. Cam Johnson, a little bit more versatile of a shooter, a little bit more versatile of a player than Michael Porter. And Michael Porter really struggled in that series. So can the Nuggets continue to add to their mix? Can Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther get better? Like, there are things that I think we can still talk about, but I am very, very curious as to what Denver does from here, because there's some flexibility that I'm about to show you that is shocking. When we come back, we're going to talk about what the Nuggets could possibly be doing next. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. Back at it, Locked On. Oh, God. Back at it, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. I did that on Locked On earlier. I said back at it with Pickaxe and Roll. Just brutal. I really am doing my best. But when you do several podcasts in a day, everything starts to blend together. So doing my best, figuring it out. But it's been quite a day. If you listen to the earlier show this morning at about 10 a.m., was clearly not expecting this. I was talking about, it'd be great if Denver got Gary Trent Jr. It'd be great if Denver got I don't know, Sandro Mamukelashvili, who they could still add. They could still add, and I would be pretty happy if they did it. But there are so many things that just opened up the door, and I'm going to show you why. Here, let me flip this around to the right layout. Here is the Nuggets multi-salary cap sheet that I have projected for them right now. This includes Cam Johnson in place of Michael Porter Jr. This includes Bruce Brown earning a vet minimum contract, which I believe is $2.296 million, give or take $1 or $2. That is a projection. We're still trying to figure it out. But I do think that because of Cam Johnson making so much less money, remember, Michael Porter Jr. was making $38 million in 2025-26. Because of this deal, the Nuggets are out of the luxury tax entirely. There are some things that need to be discussed, though. The first is that Cam Johnson has a unique contract, which is a little bit confusing. And the reason why I say that is he has an incentive-laden contract. Those incentives do not count for the salary, especially because they are unlikely incentives for the salary cap. But they do count for the tax aprons, for the first tax apron, the second tax apron. So you see under salary cap room, if you're watching along on YouTube, under salary cap room, Denver's $25.8 million over right now. There's total incentives factored in is $5.3 million. That used to be $1.2 million, which was Aaron Gordon's. Actually, I think those were unlikely incentives as well for Aaron Gordon, but you still have to factor that in. Now you have more incentives that you have to factor in. So those numbers, it's not just the $20.5 million, it is the $24.6 million or so that he has that is connected to both his salary and to unlikely incentives. Those have to be controlled with the aprons. So the Nuggets have, even though they did save significant money, they have $10.1 million in space below the first apron. What that means. Right now, the Nuggets, if they have Bruce Brown, if they have Cam Johnson, if they have everybody else on the roster, they have 13 roster spots accounted for. So they have 2 spots that are open. I have projected here in this next chart the possibility of Denver signing another player for a veteran minimum, as well as dishing out the vast majority of the rest of their salary cap space, their space underneath the first tax apron, to a non-taxpayer MLE target. This allows them to pay any person on the free agency market, any person, up to $7.8 million or so if they don't make any moves. They cannot go over the first apron with the non-taxpayer mid-level, so that's why it's limited to that. Usually the non-taxpayer mid-level goes up to about $14 million. And so if Denver was able to get another team to take on Dario Saric's money without any provocation, without getting any money back, then Denver could open up another $5.4 million to add somebody to for a larger contract. As it stands right now, the Nuggets have the ability to sign a player to a 4-year, roughly $33 million contract, which is a big deal because what they had previously was the taxpayer mid-level, which only goes up to 2 years and is only a 5% increase off of $5.7 million. That was about a 2-year, $13 million contract. $13 million in guaranteed. This is 33. Like you're able to give somebody, if you want, you're able to give somebody a significant contract in the tax apron NBA, which is where we are right now. So this scenario, I think, is reasonably viable. It is probably like they could create more money, and I do think that they should try to create more money. That would be my goal if I were them. But if they could create more money, that would be unbelievably impressive. Um, what they would have to do in that case is to get somebody to take on Zeke Najee's contract, get somebody to take on Dario's contract for a specific amount. And that would be lower. You just try to open up a little bit more money and you could sign a larger contract for somebody else. Now, why that matters is let me go over to the free agency list. Just so you know, free agency list has cut down pretty massively over the course of, actually not pretty much, like significantly over the course of the last 4 to 5 hours. A lot of people have signed contracts. A lot of people have gotten off the market in different ways. Gary Trent Jr., if you notice, he's on this. He is not available. He's going back to Milwaukee. I missed that in my first run through. Gershon Yabusele in the power forward section, maybe he's a guy that Denver could target. Al Horford, could they give him actually, they can't give him a 4-year deal, but could they give him a 3-year deal with a team option? Like, wouldn't that be interesting? A 3-year deal worth about $20 million? Like, wouldn't Al Horford be at least intrigued with something like that? I think he might be. Could Denver give something to Malcolm Brogdon, who's still available? Like, hypothetically, they don't plan on playing Jalen Pickett. They don't plan on playing Julian Strawther an extensive amount. And they decide, want Malcolm Brogdon and Bruce Brown in the backcourt. I'm not sure that that's the direction I would go. I do think that Denver should really focus on the front court if they can. They should be trying to add somebody in the front court with something. Now, the problem that you run into is the names that you're looking at. Jonathan Kuminga, not really available for Denver. Gershon Yabusele could be available, could be a name to watch. Chris Boucher could be a name to watch. Trey Lyles, maybe a reunion with Trey Lyles back in Denver. Maybe that's something to monitor. Al Horford, something that I would consider. Beyond that, I wouldn't necessarily want to give anybody a significant contract. I don't think that there's a lot of viability with that, which gets into the trade market. Trade market's a little bit more interesting. Denver, like I shared in this initial kind of rundown for the salary cap, they have flexibility and they actually have a large trade exception that they got from this Cam Johnson deal. I believe that's where they got it. $16 million trade exception. They have the flexibility to be able to add somebody on that, at least up to a certain degree. But what they could do is trade Zeke Naji and or Dario Saric for a couple of different people if they wanted to, or a large contract that's in the 10, 12, 14, even $15 million range. That's something that they would have available to them that they didn't before. I think that there are just a variety of ways that they can now go. So much so that I wish I could tell you guys what they're going to do, but I don't know anymore because they have a couple of different ways that they could go with this thing. They also only have 2 roster spots that are currently available, so maybe there's some flexibility there. Him as ex Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen would be a very interesting one. Another one that I think would be interesting. Could you agree to a sign and trade with Duncan Robinson over with Miami? I'm not sure what their actual flexibility is there. Can he be taken into a traded player exception if he's signed and traded? I think I would have to ask Jake Coyne about that. But that's one that I would consider. Denver could also send back somebody like Dario Saric in that particular deal to give him a slightly larger contract. If Miami was willing to facilitate something like that, Denver probably has to give up like a 2032 second round pick or something of that nature. But the good news is that they have it. They got access to the 2032 first earlier today, immediately flipped it, and it was the right call. So maybe the right call is to just do the same thing with somebody like Grayson Allen or Duncan Robinson or Kevin Huerter as a pretty good name to throw out there. Not sure whether that would be super viable, but I need to get the numbers on what the actual traded player exception limit is. Because if it's the difference between Michael Porter's contract and Cam Johnson's contract, maybe it is 16 and a half because there's what his actual cap number is, which I think is like 21.4, and then Michael Porter's is 38. So it probably is around 16.5. So anything under that, Denver could trade for somebody of that nature. Here's another couple of interesting ones. Wano says Kobe White and Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony might be interesting. Not sure if he's necessarily the right guy for Denver, but if they are, like, they have the flexibility to be able to do it, is he the right call? Maybe not, but you could probably send back Dario in that deal and stay under the first apron that way. I'm sure that Memphis would be willing to do that. They get a bunch of savings and they get to then buy out Dario that way. They were planning on buying out Cole Anthony before, but Kobe White, probably worth a little bit more on the market than what Denver would be able to give up, what they'd be interested in giving up. But it's just a very, very interesting situation that Denver's now put themselves in. So fascinating how these things work out. This morning I was talking about, I don't know if Denver's going to be able to do much. I think they're probably just going to work on the fringes. We'll see what kinds of players that they can add. Lo and behold, they upend all of that at this point. So very curious to see what they do. Jim Bob says, re-sign Russ. I've seen a variety of people asking about Russell Westbrook. The point that I think, like, he could come back. I think Russell Westbrook could come back. He has interest in New York. He has interest in Sacramento. Those, I think, are two more likely pieces than Denver right now. Those are two more likely destinations for Russell Westbrook, particularly because they, I think, are more willing to give taxpayer mid-level to Russ based off of what he just did, whereas Denver, I think, is trying to retain some flexibility. I personally don't think the fit is great anymore. I think that with Murray, with Christian Brown, you want to continue to commit to those guys, and you want to surround them with spacers, with attackers. They've already added Bruce Brown. He's somebody that they're going to commit to, that they're going to play. I think that if you're going to add another point guard, you want that person to be able to space. You want them to get off the ball. And there is this too. Russ demands too many minutes. Like, he just is. Like, he has a big role, and he should. Like, he earned it last year for Denver. I'm not sure how he would handle going back down to like 20 minutes a game, 18 minutes a game. I kind of think that Denver would be okay if they moved on. There is still a possibility that they decide to go get a point guard. I think it's more likely that they try to add somebody to the front court. Ooh, hey. Cody says PJ Washington. Oh, there's a good one right there. That's a good one. I don't know how viable it is, but he does fit into the traded player exception. So Dallas would not have to take anything back if they didn't want. Denver doesn't have the assets in order to just match up with that, but they can send a player. Like, hypothetically, let's say it's Peyton Watson. Let's say they prefer to send Peyton Watson and Dario. It could actually be Peyton Watson and Dario Saric for PJ Washington now. And it doesn't matter that PJ is over the amount that those guys would make, because they still have the traded player exception. So they could just accept him into that traded player exception and have the flexibility to do that. That's an interesting idea. I would love that. I think that would be great. Here's the thing. Overall, like, it's not super viable. It's not super likely for Denver to make another one of those kinds of big moves. I wanted to talk about it and give Nuggets fans the picture of it. Just like I was talking about Michael Porter trades, just like I was talking about Jamal Murray trades, and going through the scenarios throughout the offseason. It's for situations like this, so people are informed and they understand what's going on. Even I was a little bit caught off guard with something like this, and them having this sudden flexibility. I did not think that they could create this, but they have. And so now you're in this unique situation where you cannot miss out. Denver has the makings of a really great rotation now. You've got Murray, Christian Brown, Cam Johnson. That's going to be a great fit. Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic. Elite starting five, fits really well together. You want to build around those guys. And then you've got Bruce Brown, and then you've got Julian Strawther, and then you've got Peyton Watson. Those are the three, I think, locks that I would consider right now. Bruce Brown might even be your backup point guard, depending on the lineup, depending on the situation. The other thing that they had previously reached out about was Cam Whitmore. They did some due diligence on that. Not sure how old that information actually is, but would that be an interesting one? Like maybe condensing Dario Saric and Julian Strawther into Cam Whitmore, and then you open up another free agent kind of opportunity there. And you also give yourself somebody in Cam Whitmore who would be more of a scorer off the bench, whereas Bruce Brown's more of like your versatile do-it-all. Island Lucas says, bro, you need Russ to run point off the bench. I don't think that you do. I think that there are other options out there that they could be getting into. The other thing is they always like to stagger Jamal. They always like to stagger some of those guys. And like, honestly, I think they're okay if Jalen Pickett takes on a slightly larger role. Now, he's not going to be your playoff option, I don't think. But if your best five that you come up with is Bruce Brown, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, Deron Holmes, Al Horford, like, is that bad? Like, I don't think that's bad at all. I think that's pretty good. So if Denver could recruit somebody like Al Horford, you play a little bit bigger. Yeah, you're going to struggle a little bit at times creating some offense off the dribble, but there is at least some mechanisms for like building a better playoff rotation than you had before. So I kind of like it. I kind of think that it's viable. And Bruce, when he was in Denver for the playoff run, ran a lot of backup point guard. They tried Reggie Jackson. They tried Bones Highland. Those guys didn't end up working out for what Denver needed at the time. So they went with, when they rested Murray, they would play Bruce Brown at the 1, and then Murray would come back in and run with the second unit, and Bruce Brown would slide over to the 2. So I don't think they need in capital letters. I don't think they need a point guard. Would it be nice? Sure. That would be fine. Monte Morris, as Dominic Miller says here, pretty reasonable option. Not sure he really plays all that much, but would be a reasonable option. There are some other guys that they could go get. Let me pull this up again and go back to this particular list. That's not the one that I wanted. Remove you. Right now, Russell Westbrook is a quality option. Cole Anthony is an option, especially if he gets bought out. Trey Mann is somebody that I think Denver could really have some interest in. Malcolm Brogdon, same thing. Delano Banton, big point guard, somebody who can go off the dribble, but also just like not a defensive liability in any way, shape, or form. So that would be interesting. The other thing, remember when I said go take advantage of bad, like not great front offices? Go trade for Ayo Dosunmu. Go get Ayo Dosunmu from Chicago. Go get Jose Alvarado from New Orleans. Go get like hell. I saw the name Keontae George be brought up. Maybe go get Keontae George. Probably not my first call for what Denver needs right now, but there are other things that they could try. So it will be interesting to see what they ultimately do. But I think Nuggets fans should be over the moon. My God, you and Swipe are so unrealistic at times. Ayo Dosunmu is not unrealistic. Think about what the Chicago Bulls have done lately. They are not fantastic. Okay, we got the official news. Gary Trent, 2-year, $7.5 million deal to return to Milwaukee. So he is, like I said, off the board. But yeah, will be interesting to see where Denver goes from here. They have flexibility. They can continue to do more things. Um, I do think it's very important for Nuggets fans to just sit back right now, process what just happened, and realize, holy cow, what a win. What a win for the Nuggets. That was a very, very impressive first couple of moves that they just made. We will see whether they continue to make moves. They've allowed themselves and afforded themselves the flexibility to continue to change things. We'll see if they could follow through on it, if there's a trade that they can make. You want to make sure that you're adding to your team. Maybe there is a extension for Christian Brown in the future. It's a little bit more palatable now that you're not paying Michael Porter 38 and you're paying Cam Johnson 20. It's a little bit more flexibility there. So if you have to pay Christian Brown 22, people are not going to panic. So good stuff. I think this is great. This is a really great sign. Denver has jumped back up into the same tier as OKC in the playoffs. The same tier. They haven't passed them. I don't think there's anything that they can do to pass them, but they've certainly tried. They've certainly caught my eye, and I've been very impressed with what they've done. That is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hope you enjoyed. What a day for the Nuggets. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I will talk to you guys very soon.